Hi, friends. Welcome back to the Recover Your Life podcast. My name is Bridgett, and I am so excited that you have joined us today. I hope that you have been loving the conversations that we've had on season 1. And if you've been spending time with us, or if you're new here, you know that the Recover Your Life podcast is a community of men and women who are committed to living lives where we grieve well, rest well, and love well to live the life we dream of. And so today I'm so excited to introduce you to our guest, Emily Austin. Welcome to the show, Emily.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me.
Emily and I got to meet at a conference this past fall and have just had a great year, getting to know each other as friends and growing businesses and what that looks like and being able to process those types of things. And so I wanted you guys to be able to meet her and hear a little bit of her story and tell us a little bit about her journey. And so I want to kind of give you the moment to kind of introduce yourself and talk about we're getting to the part of, I'm going to spoil it, is you have an incredible coffee cart. We're going to talk about the long story to that. But in talking about coffee, my first question for you is this. Do you remember your intro to coffee? Like, how old were you? What were the memories associated with coffee for you?
Oh my gosh, what a good question. Yeah, I think, so the first thing I think of is both of my grandfathers. I grew up on a farm in Florida, and my papa on Saturdays, what he would do is he would take the grandkids, we'd load up in his pickup truck and go to the local gas station. And he used to say that we had to use the coins in the coin holder, otherwise they would all turn to pennies. And so we had to go spend it, basically. So every Saturday we would go to the gas station and we'd get like a candy bar or something, which we just were also excited about. But he would always get coffee from the gas station. And I remember just like, that was like a routine for him. I saw him no matter where we went, if it was, church on Sunday morning or Saturday, like candy time, he would always get a coffee at the gas station. And then my other grandfather, I feel like I saw him, they would always have coffee brewing in the house. So I connected initially, I think, with family growing up.
Do you remember like sipping it as a kid? Did you like steal it from them? Were you allowed to drink it? Like, how did that work?
No, I think I was always honestly like kind of weirded out by the whole black coffee thing. And mind you, this was not great coffee, not craft coffee. And I didn't discover that until way later. But then my first memory of coffee introduction was like frappuccinos as a teenager. And then in college, it definitely was like starting to like enjoy coffee more and then get into the craft side of it later on. So
that's so great.
Yeah.
So my first memory, I was thinking about this. The last time I was at my parents' house was my mom, when she would travel, she would get me like the little espresso sized coffee cups. And so there was one that I had that I can't find, and I have so much sadness, but you do need to find it. I called it my moo cup. It was a Vermont cow, like a Vermont little espresso cup that had a cow, had like a blue background and it had a black and white cow on it.
Amazing.
And what my coffee was like 99% coffee mate hazelnut synthetic flavored creamer and a splash of coffee in it. And I was like, this is the best thing in the world. So I got to do that really young. And it took me a really long time before, I would say I was in college before I stopped putting sugar in coffee, and now I don't. But I need a little bit of cream in it. I've tried to do black, and I know that people say when you increase the quality of the coffee, you can do it. Still have some beer in it. I'm open to continuing to learn, but I always just need a splash of coconut or a splash of almond in there to help me out.
Yeah, that's totally understandable. I get that. This is actually, I've got a new organic coffee offering. I'm sipping on it now, and the notes are so good. So I feel like if you start like kind of going into that realm of starting to sip on, specialty craft coffee, it'll win you over. Like, I like actually don't need cream lab because I can taste the notes of the coffee, which is really neat.
Yeah, that's so great. So talking about coffee in your coffee cart, can we let's start at the end and then we'll go back. So Asulon is your coffee cart. Can you talk a little bit about like what inspired this? Like what inspired you to say, hey, especially in a city like Nashville where there's coffee available everywhere. Like,
Sure.
what inspired you to say, no, like, I want to pursue this and what I'm offering matters?
It's a good question. I wrestled with that for a while. To give some background and context, like, I was in coffee several years ago in Florida, moved to Nashville about 8 years ago in 2016. And I think, I've been in professional roles, corporate world, and this coffee dream started stirring in me again. And it got to the point where it was kind of a process of getting there. I feel like I sat with it for a long time. I definitely had fear around it. Finally ended up vocalizing it to some people, and they were like, you have to do this. And I was like, I don't know. Kind of like buried it for probably another year. And then just through some life circumstances, I ended up in January 2020, it just like came rushing back. And I was like, this is so intriguing to me, because I thought this was a dead dream that was not coming back, and definitely had fear around it, had, the realities of coffee, and running a shop and all that stuff I'd seen behind the curtain of like, it's a lot of work. And I think I just got to the place of I was always going to wonder if I never stepped out and tried. And alongside that, there was so much passion on the inside of me that was starting to come to life. It was like, oh, I actually feel like if I don't do this, that it's beyond wondering what would have happened, but I would also be withholding like gifting that's on the inside of me from other people, and also from me fully feeling like I was kind of stepping into purpose in some ways. And so it just got strong enough that I was like, I've got to step out and try. And that is, even though it's scary, that is better than the what if question years down the line. And that started to drive me initially beyond, it helped me step through the fear, I think.
Yeah, that's so good. So how did that start? Was that like hey, I tried one little thing, or I went and I quit my job and then the next day I started a company? Like, what did that transition look like in the, how do I leave what I'm currently doing to transition into something that I don't know if it will work or not?
Sure. Yeah, I think that, so January 2020 was when I was kind of like, okay, I'm going to do it. Felt like the name came, had a lot of initial vision that kind of, started stirring. And, when you have passion and vision, you're like, oh, I want to go all in, and I want to do this. But then equally with that, there's the practicality side, and there's the, I'm in a full-time job. You have to make a living. I also really value, like, how do you build something well and scale wisely? I feel like the last several years have just observed and like listened to people's stories, and everyone's journey is different, but I think I really have wanted to make sure that I, yes, go all in whenever it's time, but also how can you do that in a wise manner? And so for me, that looked like I was going to start, my thought was 2020. I was going to start a side business, and then the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
And so it was kind of a pause where I kind of just was like, this is very interesting timing. But I felt like I had this sense of like spaces being created for you. And I just ended up spending time business planning. I got back into coffee to really refine the craft side of it and get back into education of coffee, talk to a lot of small business owners to learn from their experience specifically in coffee. And I just kind of went on this, like, it was like a little adventure of, dreaming, being in the dreaming phase, writing down vision, but then talking to people. And once I decided, like, okay, I'm doing this, I started a blog. So I blogged during that journey where it's kind of like vision casting and address a little bit of what you said of like, why coffee and why now? Because that wasn't a big fear that I had to work through. Well, everyone, like, there's so many options here. Why start another one? You know, and I think whenever I vocalized that to few safe people in my life, it was like, but you're unique. There's something that you have that is different and that will serve, you know, people in a unique new way. And so I think community helped me kind of work through that one, whenever that would continue to come back. But then as I blogged and was, you know, talking to people and getting kind of a business plan together, then it was like road to launch, basically.
Wow.
And I kind of reverse engineered it, where it was like, okay, if this is the vision or this is the goal, like, how do I kind of like look backwards? Or like, how can I start small to work my way there? And so along with, I think a lot of people, because it's becoming such an industry, was like, I would love to start a coffee cart.
Yep.
And then it was doing all the research of how do you do that? What equipment do I need? You know, what are the local like regulations and just all the things that get involved with starting a business. And my job during the pandemic went remote. And so I was in my house, you know, working, and then off, like when I was finished, it was like dreaming about Asulon and the practical steps to get there. And so I was able to, and we can probably dive more into details like this, but I had a very supportive leader who was my boss, and I was very open with him.
Yeah.
And he was like, go for it. And so I started the cart on a side to my full-time job. So that looked like a lot of weekends or early mornings before my shift or evening events. And then it was a safe basis for me to start a business and start to build a brand, but also awareness, gain some clients. And then it's, you know, grown from that point. So that's kind of the beginning start days of Asulon.
Yeah, I love that. Even when you're sharing this, I think I'm starting to put puzzle pieces together in my brain, just kind of knowing a little bit of the story. For me, the thing that, and I've said this 100 times to you already, but the thing that drew me to you was your business card. I literally keep it on I call it my Jesus chair. It's my orange chair that I sit with. And I've received lots of business cards being here. But that's the one that I keep, and I literally keep it as a reminder. And I'm so drawn to it, especially, you know, your last line that says, the world needs your full presence. And I remember I saw it for the first time, and I was like, cried over it. I was like, why am I crying over a coffee cart business card? Like, I felt your heart in it and your vision in it. And like, even so now hearing you share about no, it just started as dreaming. It just started as journaling. It just started with talking with friends and mentors to share that. Like, it matters. So I do want to talk a little bit about the importance of naming something. I think the fact that naming a dream. Can you talk about how you named your company Asulon and what that means in the context of what you're creating?
Yeah, I definitely think naming something initially was a little overwhelming, because I was like, how in the world? That's a big deal. Naming a business, naming anything. It's you know, how do you do that? And for me, being a believer, in January of 2020 was just praying and was like, God, if this is something you have for me and that I need to step out and do, then I want you to name it. It kind of, you know, was this idea of how do you co-create with God? Like, how do you have that relational dynamic with the creator of the universe, who then is able to, you know, inspire us. And then I think it's just so beautiful that, you know, we have the opportunity. And starting to be in that mindset was like, okay, what will it look like to let him into that space and not just hold this with like, this is my desire, this is my dream, but what is on your heart, and how do you want to love people well, and how do you do that? And so I think a lot of it was birthed through prayer, and the close people around me would be able to attest to that. It's not something that I try to hide, but it's also something that I want it to be spoken through the quality of the product, the intentionality of a business card, then for people to be like, what? There's something more here, you know? And so it was like, okay, if I'm going to do this, I want you to name it. I want you to build it, because in my own strength, I could build something and strive to make it happen. But I've done that before, and I've burned myself out, and it's not fun. And I think that's a constant wrestle and check-in that I've continued to have to, touch base on. But that's where it started. And so I was at dinner with a friend. We were eating Mexican food, one of our favorite local restaurants. And I was kind of sharing this with her. Came home and was like laying in bed and just kind of talking to God about it. And I had this like word that dropped in my mind, in my spirit. And I was like, okay, that's not necessarily it. But I started thinking about, how would I want people to feel interacting with this business? What am I trying to evoke in people, and how I want them to feel? And so I started with a word that led me kind of down a rabbit trail journey. And it was like the synonym, and then the antonym, and then the root word. And then I got to Asulon. It was actually a different root word, but if you go deeper, it's Asulon. And I sat with that for a little while. It wasn't like instantaneous, but I started then, again, safe, close people, not sharing with a lot of people details, but because I think there's something sacred and about protecting kind of like an incubator time when you have an idea or a dream, and who gets to speak into that. And so I was talking with someone else, and I was like, I have these two like different name ideas. What do you think? And she was like, I really like Asulon, because one, it sounds, whenever you say it, it sounds good. But then it means refuge in Greek. And really that's what like I am wanting people to experience and feel and ultimately extend to other people, is like, as you come and drink coffee, and as there's a couple different aspects of the business that I am focused on cultivating connection through craft coffee. And so as people are doing that, it's like, okay, how do you feel safe and connected with others, and really focus on building relationships with individuals, and then not building stronger communities. And then once you start experiencing that type of community, then it's like, oh my gosh, you can't help but extend it to other people. And that can be through big ways, it can be through small ways. And I think coffee is a really great way that you can do that. So that's kind of the journey of the name, that I don't know that I've shared a lot, because there's more, again, just those details that it's a time and place, I feel like. But this was definitely a conversation I wanted to share that in.
I love that. I think that's part of, I had to process that with Recover Your Life, and being able to say, okay, like what do I want to, even just the idea of like, when you create something, you are giving birth to something. And so there is that naming aspect of it. There is a labor part of it. There's like all of it with infancy of like, it's beautiful and it's fun and it's cute, and also it screams, and I'm still trying to figure out like how to make this thing grow and feel safe, and like what does that look like? But you mentioned kind of in that of like in those beginning stages, like pulling in close people. And I think whenever we pursue a dream, because that's what we're talking about, maybe not every person is going to start their own business, but at some point, well, many points throughout our life, like we're going to be in a place where we go, if we're honest, right? And I understand what what pain and trauma, like when we experience pain and trauma, when we lose something in a dream or we try something and it fails, is we don't want to try it again. And so I think the actual like shutting off our hearts requires that we abandon ourselves. And like you said, like that is more terrifying to me than to say, I'm going to try something and it might fail again. And so honoring ourselves, and I talk about building self-trust a lot, is, hey, I have this dream, I have this desire, and other people might not like it, they might not agree with it, it may not make money, I may look stupid, whatever it is, but I need to know that I showed up for me because that matters. And so, I think when we're pursuing a dream, when we're trying something, and I think you said there's a right, it's all the above, right? It's the dream part. It's the, okay, but how do I make my actual real life finances work? How does this honor the family that I have, or the other obligations or yeses I've made in my emotional capacity, my physical capacity, what I have? Bringing other people in to say, okay, you are my board of advisors that gets to speak into this. Because I know what I've experienced is not only is it overwhelming, like, with real life people, but on the internet, it's like you search one thing and then your computer listens to you and it's like 4,000 advertisements for how to do this. And I'm like, am I using the microphone? Should I even be a podcast? Like all this thing goes like, oh my goodness, there's already all these other people that are doing it. So I guess my question is like, how did you decide who in this journey? I think I'm going to ask kind of the 2-part question, like personally, like, how have you decided those are the people that get to speak into this? And then professionally, what has kind of been your grid of like, professionally, these are the people that get access to make corrections. And these are the people where I go, yes, we're in a similar space, but I'm not sure if I want to receive that same feedback.
Sure. That's great. Another great question. I think when you were talking about naming it, I had the thought of, with the close people, not just naming the business, but then naming a dream, I think is really important when you get to that point, because then there's a level of accountability. Whenever you voice something and you name something to a small group of people, they're the ones, and when I say safe group of people too, it's the people who like have your back, they want the best for you, but they also will speak truth to you. But they will do it in a way that's kind and loving. And those are the people that they will check in. They'll ask you. So there's vulnerability in that, because once you say something, I knew once I started blogging, this thing's over, because then I'm like, here's the vision, and then people know about it. People are going to ask like, how's it going? What's the progress update? And so I think that's really important. I think too, as far as personally, those people, I think that, you sometimes think, oh, I want to get all these different opinions or thoughts. And 2020 really became a time for me where it's like, who are the most important voices in my life?
Wow.
And for someone who historically could be a people pleaser, right? Like, how do I walk confidently in who I am, but then also, like you said, a board of advisors, or there's so much wisdom, I think, in still having voices in your life that can guide, lead, counsel. And so for me, it's my family, their safe place. If it's someone not your family, there are people that you can seek out and build relationships with. That I've had a community of people. It took a long time to kind of find those people. Yeah. But there's probably a handful that they're also peers or a little bit further down the line that I can let into that space. And then I also circled back to an older leader in my life who he has now done a few businesses of his own. And so he was doing somewhat business coaching with me during that time. And so I had a few different aspects. I had, family, I had some peers, and then I had some business guidance initially. And then, through the process of starting the business, I think I was definitely blessed again through even just being like, God, like I need a lawyer. And then what do you know, organically, the very same day, ended up meeting someone who just kind of stepped in to help me start, like, form the LLC. Like, that's where the resting, striving component of like, whenever you release and just have open hands, which is mind blowing to me, but it's like, okay, we can work with that. And so, there's been some people.
I always talk about like how to know the difference, like which one requires the most faith from you.
Right.
Because sometimes, right, depending on your history, making the phone call requires more faith than just waiting.
Yeah.
And myself, who likes to be 4 million steps ahead all the time.
Yeah.
Just saying, hey, God, like, I need this type of connection, and I'm going to pause for a week.
Yep.
That requires more faith. So for me, that's kind of a reflection question that I use to say, okay, how do I know which one is the resting place, is the one that requires the most faith from me? And that might change tomorrow, right? I get to ask that question every day.
Yeah.
So today, what requires the most faith might be to say, okay, I'm just going to put out on Instagram that I'm looking for something, whatever it is. I'm looking for a new piece of equipment. I'm looking for someone who is a business coach. I'm looking for someone who teaches art classes because I want to start painting again. Like, it's just like, okay, that's what requires faith today. And maybe what requires faith tomorrow is to follow up. Maybe what requires faith tomorrow is to just sit silent and wait a little bit longer. But I think being able to check in, like, that's how your heart will know when to take the next step.
Definitely. Yeah, it's so good. And I think that's a good leader too, is like, and peace. Where do you have peace? And that has been coupled with also identifying people in business as well, is peace and discernment. I think that it's a huge asset whenever you learn, like you said, to trust yourself, and then also be able to be led and guided by those things. Because I have encountered both types of people, and I think it can be when you start a business or whatever profession you're in, their connections and networking is a part of any industry, and learning to identify the people either who want something from you or the people who genuinely have your back, the people who it's overwhelming. It's a process to learn, and I haven't done it perfectly. I think that you can start down it. I think also learning that you can pivot is also really key, whether it's relationally or in business. Learning to be adaptable and flexible is key and crucial. And so with the business relationships, that's been something that's also been a huge area, though, to be open to, because as you step into that realm, again, doesn't matter what industry you're in, finding people who you can have community with and connect with in that realm is so important, because you're experiencing something so unique that you can find, confidence through that process. So again, it's been one that I've had some, relationships that's like different things would be revealed, and it's like, oh, I think I actually maybe need to pivot here. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, even though that can be really, really hard.
Yeah.
But I think it's important to be able to do that, because you have to stay true to who you are and who, either the business is or the podcast, whatever it is, And I think those personal board of advisors have greatly helped me navigate with business situations that have come up, to be able to go back to these state people and say, this is what I'm encountering, or this is what's happening. And they have been the ones that oftentimes when I have started to doubt myself, or fear comes back, or things are spoken that are hurtful, to go back to those people, and they've been the ones to actually be like, remember who you are, remember what Asulon stands for, and you have to navigate through that lens. And because I would love to say that I haven't thought about giving up, but I definitely have a very strong drive in me. But this journey has been so transformational, and so it's been so beautiful. It's also been incredibly difficult and challenging in a lot of different ways. And this past year, I think as the business continued to grow on the side and then ended up stepping in full time, just through a variety of circumstances, there have been so many times that I've had to remind myself, why am I doing this? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Why am I waking up at 5 a.m.? Why am I having these hard conversations over and over again? You know, it's a physical labor. There's all these aspects that's like hard and difficult, but the why has driven me to continue to go forward. And those people, like I said, those personal advisory people, they've been the ones in the moments that have been hard, or where I've wanted to throw in the towel or give up or be like, is this worth it? They've been the ones to hold me up and kind of speak life over all of that.
That's so great. And I think I don't know, just in our culture, I feel like we're kind of taught that we're supposed to mature out of needing identity and purpose. That somehow like it's less Christian of us, or less like we're just supposed to serve, and it's okay that we're not noticed, or, you know, okay that we don't get anything back. And I don't mean it in like a self-serving way, but I mean it in a like, our hearts are designed to know that we matter, and what we're contributing to the world makes a difference. And so like those needs need to be met in our life. And I think another, like one of the reasons why we don't step out is the like, oh, well, you know, it doesn't matter. Like I had to walk through a season of that where I wrestled with this like, isn't this me wanting more than what God wants for me? Or is this me like not being grateful for the life that I have, or the job that I have? Or like it took me months to wrestle through like, hey, I have this dream to start something that is going to cost me everything in regards to like how my life was structured, what my days look like, where I lived. Like it was going to cost me a lot. But I think that's just really important, is like, hey, like it's okay that we like desire. I think just, you know, just thinking about like the American dream kind of has this understanding of like, you just work a job you hate because that's what we all have to do.
Right.
And so even kind of taking that lens off of our worldview to say, yes, now we are so like, we need to work hard. We need to honor the financial commitments that we've made. Like all of those things are important.
Absolutely.
But not at the expense of robbing ourselves the true God design that like we matter. Like we matter, and it's important that we get to create things in the world that fill us with deep joy and purpose. Like, that is not immature. It's not ungodly. It is such a beautiful part of us, and it is scary because we're unlearning that in the process of the like, oh well, like what am I doing? And that's, you know, I think that's why we need people. We need people to say, hey, wait a second, like you're spiraling out of control. What is happening here? Because it's all happening. I think that's something in the last couple of months I've just been really trying to give myself a lot of compassion, like self-compassion about, is like, hey, every human being that's pursuing a dream, that's being brave, that's reaching out for connection or a relationship or having conflict, like we are all experiencing all the emotions of the risk of that and the reward of that. And the only people that aren't experiencing it are the people that just aren't telling you about it. Like,
Sure.
we're all trying to figure this out as we go.
Yeah.
And it's not something that we have to figure. And I would definitely want to self-protect, to be like, let me learn everything that I can about it before I take the next step. And I think preparation is good, but there is this like, I'm just going to take the next step, and we'll be faithful, we'll be obedient, we'll grow one little piece at a time. And that's hard sometimes too.
Yeah, that was just making me think whenever I was just in the, road to launch phase. I remember it was probably the week I was getting ready to launch and do my first event. And I was in the kitchen right here, had the cart, and everything was going wrong. And I was like on my hands and knees trying to figure out plumbing and electrical stuff. And I remember thinking to myself, gosh, Emily, like, why did you have to do the hard thing?
Wow.
Like, why could you not be content sitting in your house, working a great job for great leadership, getting a consistent paycheck? But there was something in me that was like, I have to do this. And if I don't, like, there's so much, it felt like high stakes. Like, there's a lot attached to this.
Wow.
And beyond this sense of like, because I agree, like, the American dream can also be such a facade, the right word of like, we just chase after this almost unattainable ideal.
Yeah.
That it doesn't have to be starting a business. It could be working at your house remotely and providing for your family. And that is the dream. It doesn't, I think we think that that dream has to look a certain way for everyone. And I think it really is more so connected to, like, I thought a lot about in the beginning, what does success mean to me, or what does it look like for me? And for me, it was like, yes, obviously you have to make money, like that. You have to be profitable. You have to have a healthy business to be able to grow and for it to last. But beyond that, like, success for me was being at the right place at the right time, connected to the right person. And I don't mean in this like, oh, everything has to align at the perfect moment, but it was more so being at an event. And let's say I maybe made a little bit less money that day. Well, I was able to show up and serve and connect with that community of people. And when I had that mindset, there would be interactions that there's stuff that's happened that no one knows about, or things that have been said, or ways that you've been able to see people. I think that's just such a key of like seeing people. That always made it worth it. Is like, even if it was hard, or maybe the financial goal wasn't there for that day, it was like, but I was here with these people doing what I feel like I've been created to do for this time. And that can change, right? It doesn't have to be for the rest of my life, but for this season of my life, this is very much that. And to me, that was success. It was like being at the right place at the right time, connected to the right people, rather than just, crazy. And yes, I have goals. I have big goals. I have big vision, like, and there's business goals attached to those things. But I think at the root of the success, I think it allowed me and has allowed me to be more open-handed with not getting into this like comparison trap, or if something didn't go how it was supposed to, it was way easier to move through and move on and be like, okay, let's, try the next one. But finding the gold in every interaction or every event, even if it was a tough one. So I think that's been super helpful as well.
That's beautiful. One of the things that you've mentioned is just your passion to really have this not only be a great experience for drinking coffee, but to cultivate connections. So can you tell us a little bit about what that looks like and one of the fun ways that you're creating connection with your business?
Yes. So Asulon is focused on catering Coffee and conversation to foster deeper connection. And kind of the tagline that I use all the time is cultivating connection through craft coffee. And one of the ways that I do that is I have, mobile espresso, drip coffee, or cold brew bar, and a pop-up around town, mainly for private events right now. And when I serve coffee, I have conversation cards. So I have a couple. But the whole point of these is whenever you're at the cart, you could be, with a friend, you could be with someone new. There's a lot of networking happening in this city too. And some people love networking. Some people, it's like, oh gosh, it's the worst thing. So it's how can you just make people feel more comfortable and at ease. And oftentimes, holding a drink or like sipping on coffee or whatever is helpful. But then it's like, oh, like how can we either, for new people who are meeting each other or people that already know each other, you can go a little bit deeper and get to know something new about each other. So I have these available for people to grab, and I'll say, like, you can take home and, use with friends or family if you want to. And
awesome.
It's just a fun way to kind of like create an engaging event experience, but also lead people into deeper connection.
Yeah, I love that. Well, we have time for maybe about 2, if you would mind sharing them with us so we can test them out. I'd love to be the guinea pig.
Let's do it. So this one says, what are you passionate about?
Good
Which
question.
Is kind of appropriate for our conversation.
Yeah, I am passionate about helping people. We talk about it here a lot. Grieve well, rest well, and love well. But it's as I've been processing, I think about, we spend so much of our lives grieving and waiting for something. Grieving something that's happened. And I think when we get stuck and we don't feel like we have permission to actually address the losses that we've experienced, we don't want to dream again, because it feels like, well, what happens when a dream dies is there's a part of us that dies too. And so I just really want to create spaces, not only in the podcast, but just in lots of different, one-on-ones with people, and wherever we go is like, you have a safe place to be seen in your pain, so that you can go live the life, whether it's the coffee cart or the podcast or the being a stay-at-home mom or being a firefighter or a PE teacher. I don't care what your dream is, like a farmer, like go do what brings life to you, but do it in a space that also acknowledges that there are real losses along the way that matter and deserve to be seen.
Yes. So good. So important. There's been so many times I feel like I've delayed grieving process or just shut things down. It always comes back, until you really kind of address it. So I love that.
That's great.
Okay. Another one is, how do you most enjoy your coffee?
Well, I kind of started the podcast with this. So I definitely am a decaf girl, because I just experience a lot of anxiety. Once in a while, I can do regular, and I still love coffee. So usually decaf. Absolutely love lattes. Typically with coconut milk, and I'm learning that I actually like when put a little honey in it. So typically don't do sugar, but if I am going to do a sweetener, I actually like a little bit of honey. I feel like it's just a different flavor complement. Look at me being fancy with my coffee. Flavor that complements the coffee.
Love it. Yeah.
So that's been fun, and being able to explore. And I have enjoyed Asulon coffee, and I can tell you that it is incredible, and I give it my stamp of approval.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Love that.
Last one, if you want, for the people here in Nashville, is, what's your favorite area of Nashville and why?
Ooh, that's such a great question. I'm in East. I live in East.
Cool.
So that's where I'm saying it's my favorite.
Love it.
I've really enjoyed getting able to like walk around the greenways and stuff, which has been really great. I have a favorite one near my house that I get up and I walk.
Cool.
You know that I love it because I'm usually walking at like 6:30 in the morning, and so that's telling you that it's good.
That's awesome.
But yeah, it's definitely been fun to explore. But thank you for sharing those with us. I would love for local friends to be able to connect with you. So if they want to find you for coffee, or if they want to book you for an event, where do they go to find you?
Yes, you can just go to asuloncollective.com, or you can connect with us on social media. We're pretty much on all of the platforms. We have a pop-up shop now, so
Okay.
locals can come and drink coffee, which is going to be at Harding House Brewery Co. in the Nations, which
Awesome.
is such a great area as well. But you can definitely, following us probably on Instagram is one of the best ways to consistently stay up to date on events and where we're at.
Amazing. Well, Emily, thank you so much for being a guest on the show today. We're so grateful for your wisdom and just sharing your bravery. And friends, we just pray that this conversation inspires you to step out and dream. And maybe that's taking the final step to make it official, or maybe it's just to share with someone, hey, there's this dream that I have been holding that I'm scared to share, but I want to share. Would you call a friend? Would you go for a cup of coffee? If you're local, go see Emily, have a cup of coffee. And maybe you have a friend who you know has a dream that that needs to be part of our world. Would you share this episode with them and start a conversation to champion each other into the next season of what that dream looks like? But until next time, see you, friends. Have a wonderful week.